to get it down now. We're starting to get real professional here.
Timing is
What?
key in life.
There you go. Welcome everyone to Sand and Soul. It's 11 o'clock on Tuesday, and every Tuesday at 11 o'clock, we get on the air. We talk about real estate, and my name is Stuart Fournier. I'm a 25-year veteran of the real estate market here in Los Angeles, and specifically the South Bay beach areas, specifically. Uh, and it's my pleasure to introduce my lovely co-host.
Hello, Stuart. Good morning. 11 a.m. right on the dot. Look at that. We're very timely today. My name is Anastasia Bonholzer. I am a mortgage broker with AMS Mortgage Services, and I do service majority of it is in the South Bay, but it's all of California, Texas, and Florida.
What happened?
No, I want to dumb it down. Like, what is a permit and
Oh,
why would
okay.
somebody care about permits?
Okay, for
Why would
some
a
reason,
homeowner or home seller care about permits?
okay. Well, I'm gonna leave it at that. Somehow you froze, but I think you got your point across.
Yeah.
I wanted to talk about permits today because the the permits are kind of the big boogeyman in transactions or in people's perception of whether they should buy or sell, whether they should buy a property and or if they're in the process of selling, oh my gosh, I don't have a permit for this. So I wanted to get some
Mhm.
focus on that today, give us a sense of relief rather than fear about permits. And I have a personal story today. But before we get started, I wanted to let the audience know, or anyone that's catching this, we would love for you to interact with us on this show. You can put a question in the comment section and we'll be happy to answer it. Again, we're not on for 30 seconds. We're not on for 60 seconds. We're on for about 10 to 15 minutes talking about something relative that you can learn as you are involved in a real estate transaction or thinking about becoming involved. That's the purpose of the show, is to educate you as much as possible. So even if you're not looking, or you're catching the show on recorded, please feel free to ask questions. We'll be happy to answer. But anyway, so I wanted to start off with a little story today, Anastasia, about something that happened to us. This was about 4 or 5 years ago. And what happened was we had a couple from Washington come down and buy a house in Hermosa Beach. Now, at the time, the house was about $1.5 million, probably, I don't know, $10 million today. No, just kidding. Like, probably worth $2 million today, right? Two or
Cool.
2.5. What happened was this was a remodel, and this was a project that was taken down to the studs. In other words, completely gutted, no walls, nothing, just the
Hmm.
framework itself. So a rather large remodel,
Hmm.
about as large as you can get in terms of the remodel world. And what happened was they bought the property, they went into escrow, and this couple just happened to be walking down the street, going to the beach, taking in the fact that they were very excited about buying a house in the beach area, being from Washington and such. And they saw City Hall and they said, you know what, why don't we just poke into City Hall here and see what the permit structure is and what was involved in our transaction. I'm sorry, in the remodel. So they walk into the city planning department, pull up the address, and the city planner looks at them and they say, we have no record of
Ah,
all of
oh my
any work
God.
being done on this particular house. And so, of course, they panicked
Yeah.
and called, Randy and I immediately and said, we just walked inside the City Hall at Hermosa Beach and found out there were no permits pulled from this project. And of course, my immediate reaction was there has to be a mistake here. The listing
Yeah.
agent and the owner put that there, obviously this was permitted. So let me find out what happened. So I went down to the city myself and verified they were absolutely right. There were no permits pulled.
Oh my
So next
gosh.
phone
How
call is to the,
misleading
yeah,
to the
the
attorney.
next, well, that was coming up, but
Yeah.
next phone call was to the listing agent. And I said,
Yeah.
do you realize there were no permits pulled for this? She goes, well, that's impossible. Just
Yeah.
impossible. Let me verify that that's not what happened.
How
Sure
far
enough,
in the construction process was the house in? Like,
it's
are they
completed.
still? Oh,
No,
it's
it was
completed. So this just
completed.
already at the
Yeah.
end. Oh my
They were
gosh.
they bought and they were in escrow on a house that was completely
Yeah.
completed and presented, as
Oh
such.
wow.
So the listing agent said that's impossible. So the listing agent called the owner. Now the
Hmm.
owner happened to live in Japan. And the owner in Japan said, no, that's absolutely impossible. Of course, this was permitted. We would never have done something like that. Well,
Yeah, because he
lo and
probably
behold,
hired somebody, right?
lo and behold, it turned out that even the owner of the property had been duped by
Oh,
the contractor who had not built, who had not gotten any permits for the entire remodel.
wow.
Again, remember, this is a project that was down to the studs. So there had to be
Yeah.
dozens and dozens of permits pulled for something like
Yeah.
this. So my clients, to their credit, did not panic because what I said was, look, obviously you have a situation where you're not going to have to buy this house. You'll get your deposit back. That's the way the system's set
Hmm.
up. Or you have the potential to go to an attorney, which you probably should do, and find out whether you want to pursue the purchase of this property and find out legally what's involved in this. But let's go step number one. Let's all, as a team, basically the listing agent, the owner, and ourselves, go to the contractor and say, "What's the story here? What
Hmm.
happened? And what are you going to do about it?" Well, again, giving a lot of credit to my clients, they did not panic. And believe it or not, there needed to be no attorneys involved, there needed to be no threatening involved. The contractor basically owned up and said, "You know what? I built this correctly, but you've caught me. I pulled no
Oh my
permits for
gosh.
this project, but I will make good on getting the permits for the project." And what
Nice.
happened was
How challenging is it to get retroactive permits from
well,
the city
that
of
that
Hermosa?
again, we talk about panicking, we talk about people getting excited and making big deals about small things. Well, this was not a small thing, this is a big thing. But what ended up happening, make a long story short, was that the contractor went to the city, put his hands up and said, "Okay, come to the project that I've done, do whatever it is you have to do, whether it's take a wall down or poke holes in the
Hmm.
structure
Hmm.
itself to find out that I actually did this correctly, and I'm going to
Okay.
pay for the permits now." So bottom line was he ended up paying about $5,000 worth of permits
Okay.
and had the city come out and inspect the entire project and got permitted for absolutely everything. So,
Wow.
although this is not the norm, of course, and it's, very illegal to do something like this, the bottom line is that my, clients were rewarded with the fact that not only did they have a brand new remodel, but they had absolute verification that all the
Yeah, that's
permits
good.
had now
It was
been
good to do
pulled.
double work.
Right,
Would
right,
the permitting process be part of if a general inspector comes in during your inspection due diligence time?
right.
Would they be the
So
one pulling the permits, or at which point would it come up? Does every incoming buyer need to go through the same due diligence, or does it ever come up in conversation otherwise? You know.
technically, the answer to your first question, should the buyer do their due diligence? The answer is yes. Right.
Hmm.
In fact, we as realtors are discouraged from going down and checking for our clients because
Mm.
that's not really verification. Let's just put it out there. If you're buying a property and you want to know if everything is permitted, it is your obligation to go to the city and find out for yourself. Do not rely on second, third, and fourth parties. And this is a perfect example of why you shouldn't, because
Hmm.
the listing agent had been duped, the owner of the property had been duped, and of course, as a buyer's agent, we'd have no clue, right? Unless we went
Yeah.
down there. So it gets to be a real legal sticky point as well for agents to get involved in the permit process. Obviously, if we have the opportunity and we know that there's a problem, we will point that out and then
Yeah.
ask you, whoever
Stuart,
you
have
might
you
be,
ever
to
had
do
a
due.
situation where if they don't add any square footage and if it's a flip project and they don't pull permits for, whatever minor work they're doing inside the home, what happens in that case? How would you discover except for going down to City Hall? Is there any other ability or way?
Well,
And
it's
is it
always
important to a
it's
transaction?
we actually have a listing right now that is in that situation, and I will tell you this situation is more common than not. And that is
Hmm.
that you have a discrepancy between what the county has recorded your square footage to be and what your assessor or a prior assessment had taped out the actual square footage. Very rarely are they exact same amounts. So
Hmm.
we as professionals have the obligation, and you'll see this on a lot of listings, it's almost automatic on any signature as well, is that it has to be verified by the buyer, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
And it has to,
Would you
for
do
the
a new
buyer,
survey? Or how would you discover the actual footage? Is it
you
done
can
by the
do
home
that.
inspector or a survey
You,
company?
you can do all three that you just asked for.
Hmm.
Number one,
Okay.
you can ask, well, the appraiser does it automatically.
Hmm.
So that's verification of what the appraiser says it is, right? Having someone come in independently and do it with a survey is also an option, although that's very expensive, right? Because a survey is
Hmm.
not
Hmm.
going to charge you just to take measurements for a house. They're going to want to know everything about the property and charge you accordingly. So that would be very expensive, although that is an answer to your question. So
Hmm.
it can be very complicated. And like I said before, it's pretty rare that someone comes out with the exact same amount. And that's as far as that goes. Pretty common,
Yeah.
and it's
I do
actually
have an example on my side in a loan that I transacted with earlier this year. We did have an issue in Westchester where a house had an addition that was zoned to be a clubhouse. Instead, it was turned into a full ADU. And the appraiser, because the loan company hires an actual appraisal company, an appraiser goes out to determine what permits are pulled and how does that affect the value of the property. It was deemed to be not of because it was a jumbo loan. So it depends on the loan type. There's certain loan types which do care about unpermitted additions. We actually had to drop the loan amount to conforming loan limits in order to close the transaction, which in this
interesting.
case was a contribution of additional $40,000 from the buyer to come in to actually close the loan because jumbo financing does not like unpermitted additions. The reason being for us specifically is it affect health and safety. If it's
Right.
unpermitted and if there's a gas stove and if the gas stove was not permitted and we don't have any ability to assess the health and safety of that gas stove, where the line came from, is the gas stove going to blow up as soon as somebody turns it on? And how does that going to affect financing down the line? That's the reason why lenders care if you have unpermitted additions, is mainly to
Right.
do with self safety rather than does this add square footage or value to my property. Yes, to
Right.
a degree we care about that too, but it's has everything to do with health and safety.
Right. And this is something I wanted to bring up specifically as well. The permit process, unfortunately, the city's kind of the big boogeyman in this, right? Everyone's afraid of taking on something that's illegal in the permit
Yeah.
world. And what I wanted to do is calm people's fears about that for a couple of reasons. First of all, understand that there's nobody at City Hall waiting to put handcuffs on you because you don't have a permitted water heater or whatever it is, right? The truth of the matter is that the cities really want your cooperation to get things done. And the permitting process may not be as expensive as you think it is. As for
Hmm.
example, believe it or not, $4,000 to get an entire remodel from the studs up done in the city of Hermosa
That's a
Beach
good
seemed
price.
aside from the fact that it shouldn't happen, it should not have happened,
Right.
nor should it
But
ever
especially
happen.
retroactively,
Right,
right? Yeah,
right.
that's.
Four
But
thousand
that's good to
dollars.
know. That's good to
Yeah,
know that somebody could retroactively go in and get permits because that
right,
sometimes could happen. And maybe you can't do in the middle of the transaction, and the buyer still wants to go through with it because that's exactly what's happening in my buyer situation. They end up buying the house unpermitted. They're going now through the permitting process to get it
right,
permitted and get it up to
right.
code.
And I will tell you, Anastasia, you know this, but the audience may know. I'm a former planning commissioner for the city of Manhattan Beach, and one of the things I learned when I became a commissioner was the attitude of the cities. Now, obviously you get different attitudes with different people, but the bottom line is, and the theory is that we just want you to have something that's safe. Now, one thing that does get a little complicated for people is when we use the word non-conforming, and let me explain what that means. When you have a 50-year-old house, you are not expected to have to fix every new policy or you know uh, permitted
Yeah,
application
some of
when
the
the city's
applications are
doing.
grandfathered in, right?
Right. It's an grandfathered in is another way of saying it, correct.
Hmm,
But
hmm,
when you go to do alterations on your home, or you do a remodel, then you're expected to come up to what we call the code, the current code.
hmm,
So many of us, in fact, probably 80% of us have houses that are non-conforming. That is, that they have
hmm,
stuff that, may not be permitted anymore, but were permitted at the time
hmm,
the dwelling was built or even remodeled 20 years
hmm,
later.
hmm.
So don't be afraid of that because again, it may not be as expensive as you think it is. The process may be a whole lot simpler than you think it is. And again, don't be afraid of the permit boogeyman. The cities are actually out there to help you. Now, here's one interesting thing. We'll close it out with this that I found out myself personally because I've been doing a remodel on my house, is that make sure when you apply for a permit the people at City Hall know exactly what your project is. The other day, I was given a $4,000 permit for a project that, guess what, only cost $4,000. So I went to the city and I said, look, this permit seems pretty extreme for the project that I'm doing. And the city agreed with me, and I got the price down to $800.
Oh,
Now,
wow.
now that
That's
doesn't
a good
mean
tip.
that, right. Right. That doesn't mean that you can negotiate, but what it does mean is that sometimes the city, if you do things generically especially when you're doing it online and you're not
Yeah.
going face to
They may
face,
not
and if you,
understand the scope of the project. So
absolutely.
going
So
in
they,
person, you're saying might be best.
right. Again, you're not negotiating, but what you're doing is giving them more access to find out exactly what you're doing. And
Hmm.
it might work the other way. I don't know. But for the most part, again, the city is there to help you and make things
Yeah.
as expedient
Is it
and
true? Is
as
it true that certain general contractors, if somebody does want to do a remodel on their home, to maybe prepare it for sale because they want to get a top dollar, is it true that certain general contractors do have, you know, easier access to permitting? Is there such a thing in there where, you might have that special general contractor or extra access to the permitting department, which gives you like a fast pass, like a Disneyland, or is that a
no,
myth?
no, well, let me break that down for you. There are contractors that have familiarity with the city's specific nuances, permits, inspectors. They know the process, thereby they get things done quicker. But nobody has the right to jump ahead in line. No one has the right to do things other than what the city says the inspectors say they do things. So, yes, there is some validity to the fact that if you have a builder who's very familiar with a planning department, they know the
Hmm.
nuances, they know the inspectors think is without a doubt a no stop, no gap
Hmm.
per process. Uh, there's no doubt about it. It's not necessarily about relationships, but it is about cooperation. And let me give that as a notice to contractors out there. Contractors out there that are patient, because let's face it, getting permits can get very emotional, especially for contractors, right? Having a good relationship with the city is paramount because inspectors are always sort of picked on, to be honest with you. And they don't
Hmm.
care after
Hmm.
a while. They get a thick skin, just like, guess what? Parking uh, police do, right? They get a thick
Yeah.
skin too after a while. So, my advice is please be as cooperative as possible. Understand that the priorities of the city are paramount, they're lawful. However, the city's, for all intents and purposes, do want to work with you as much as possible.
Yeah, awesome. Well, that's a good tip. I think we're over and out, 20 minutes in, and it's been a lovely Tuesday, 11 a.m. afternoon. Taco Tuesday to you, Stuart. And until next week, I'm Anastasia Bonholzer. I'm here for all your mortgage guidance. And we right now just rolled out a brand new product where we can do a soft credit pool, a full underwrite, which means we get loan approval on a soft credit pool. So if there's any interest at all in purchasing real estate within the next 12 months, this is the way to go. It streamlines your process and it guarantees your loan. So your contingencies are shorter and you can compete against cash. And so that's what I have for you today as I close out.
Fantastic. Anastasia, thanks for giving us that tip. And again, if you have any need for information with regard to loans or the real estate process, please feel free to call either one of us. Our contact information is all over this place, so which that's not a hard thing to do. But the market right now is heating up a little bit. We're not seeing an increase in prices, but we are seeing more buyers out there. So give us a call if you need anything related to the real estate sale or purchase of your home. We'll see you next time on Sand to Sold. We're here at 11 o'clock every Tuesday, and we love your feedback. Goodbye, everybody. We'll see you next time.
Bye.